Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the VML sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. I'm Filipa and I'm joined by Misha. Today we are heading into week 2 of the VML season 12. There are 128 players total, and we have 7 weeks of Robin play to try to get a top 32 here for this season. I really am excited for this week, and I'm really excited to see what the players have brought to us. I have heard, Misha, that today we have 8 different lists in our matches. So everyone is playing a different deck today.
Yeah, this I don't know the last time we've had this happen where none of the decks are repeats, and they're also like completely different. I guess would it be genres of decks? Like none of them are like it's not like you have a Azorius control versus like a Jeskai control that, about 70% of the cards are the same. Like they are all different. And I'm so excited. Just, speaks to how diverse standard is right now and how many viable decks you can make in standard. I love it.
I'm very excited to see. Let's take a look at our meta breakdown. Also, later this week, this month, I have the RC here in Europe, so it's going to be the standard format. I'm really excited to see what decks make it there. And here in the VML, we see a lot of Temur Analyst. Why do you think, Misha? 16 players here decided to bring this deck for this week two of the tournament.
Well, Temur Analyst, in a way, it's just kind of like a combo deck. It's hard to interact with. It plays around a lot of counter spells pretty easy. You can buy things back from the graveyard. It does get a little bit tricky whenever get graveyard exile effects come into play, but it's just a very strong competitor and has a lot of outs against the other decks that are in this like kind of current metagame tier one level.
I'm really excited to tell a story that this week in my VML match, I was actually playing Temur Analyst, and I played it last week. And I was playing against Caroline, the Mydeling Winnie, and she had an idea that I might run the same deck, and she played Esper with 3 Rest in Peace main, which is so
Ooh.
fun to show the VML how analyzing your opponent is so important and seeing what decks they have been broadening. And she was like, yeah, I had a feeling that you might bring the same deck. I took the risk, and it was so worth it because I couldn't do anything against those Rest in Pieces. So just goes to show how here in the VML, just meta net decking, changing your deck to be around what your opponent might play can have such a big impact. So I'm really excited to see here what the players decided to bring and if they also made these calls in the meta.
I don't love hearing that Caroline did that to you, but Caroline does enjoy a good metagame, and it paid off for her.
I thought it was hilarious, so I'm not mad at all. I loved it. When she said, I didn't even see her list yet, and she DM'd you, and she's like, I'm so sorry. And I look at her list, and I'm like, oh my god. And by the way, she named the deck something like Rest in Peace, and I was like, this is my end. But let's take a look here at our player slide as we are going to get ready for the first match of the day. And we have Ollie. They are playing Gruul Aggro, so a very aggressive deck here. They are in Division 5 and off to a great start here, 1 0 in the season 12. What do you think of this Gruul Aggro list?
So, fun fact, my turn for a story. Ollie's a good friend of mine, and I actually helped them test their matchup this week, and I just want to say that I told them I was like that twin Furno you have a one of fun of in your deck that got me more often than not when I was testing. I was like certainly they're not going to be able to swing for lethal this turn, and then I was just like wow I was wrong. Double strike, that's a killer. It's a great deck. It's the slick shot show offs coming out with OTJ. Those it's not quite prowess. In some ways, it's better prowess. In other ways, when your toughness doesn't get a buff too, it can be a little tricky, especially when your opponent is playing red removal. That if you have a 2 butt, it's a little easier to take it out than a 3 butt with some of these other red decks. But it's a very strong deck. Ollie's also playing a lot of protection spells, the Tyvar stands, the Snakeskin Veils. It makes it very hard to remove their creatures, and it's a good competitor. I think more often than not, it can kill you turn 3, turn 4, and you have to be very careful to play around whether Ollie has removal or protection.
I'm really excited to see and finally to see a different aggro deck. I feel like we have been seeing a lot of mono red in the past seasons, Boros Convoke being the choices for aggro, and Gruul here really making a stance and showing how powerful it can be. I really like the slick shot, as you said as well. So I'm really excited to see what Ollie is able to do with this deck. But let's see what the opponent is going to play. And we have Waltz, also Division 5. And they're playing mono red aggro. So I was just saying that mono red aggro has been the choice until this point as an aggro deck. How do you think it might pair against this Gruul aggro deck?
So, just in the testing that I did, with Ollie, I can certainly say that it felt like a 50-50 shot. Like, whoever was it definitely mattered who was on the play, and whoever just had the better curve out. I know that I personally was getting punished quite a bit by keeping some questionable one-land hands, because with a Monastery Swift Spear and a play with fire, as long as you get that second land eventually with that scry off the top, you'll be set. But this deck, it's resilient and, it was a very close matchup. So I think this is going to be a very good game and a very close one to watch.
And let's take a look at our players are getting ready to start here the first match of the day. And it's going to be maybe a fast one. Usually aggro can be pretty fast. And we see an opening end from Ollie's side, which seems like a perfect hand, right? You have a creature and then you have a bunch of spells to activate that uh, those triggers and make your sleek shot really big fast. Here, I really like the skin veil, and also showing another reason why Gruul also is playing so much instead of just mono red. That card can be really good to protect your creature. Usually, this deck only plays with a couple of creatures, so it's important that they stick in the board, because otherwise, you really do not want to get so many spells in your hand and then not have any creature to take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's a very fine line between, how many creatures versus how many spells to pump your creatures. Because if you just have spells with no creature to pump, you're not sitting in a very great spot.
And we see here Waltz already starting. Uh, Squeeze a great card, and when this card starts attacking, Ollie might be in trouble.
Yeah, because you not only have Squee you have to take care of now, you have to be worried about being able to recur Squee, getting all those extra goblins. Even just 1 point of damage could be the make or break point in this type of matchup.
And this Sleek Shot is going to go for a lot of damage because these things stack up. There's a lot of things in hand. I mean, there's the Monstrous Rage, uh, two Ancestrals. So this is going to start dealing a lot of damage. So there it is, the second Ancestral Anger, and that's already 8 damage phase.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ollie did a good job here of keeping that snakeskin veil up because if I'm Waltz, I'm like, I need to remove that slick shot as soon as possible because that 8 out of nowhere, that is putting you at big risk of just dying next turn if Ollie has a few more spells to just, keep the slick shot safe and pump it up.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Really smart choice. And here probably we are going to see a lightning strike.
Mhm.
So let's hope that Waltz does not have a second spell to take care of the sleek shot. And it looks like they might have it.
Oh, they
Oh,
do.
so that frenzy, and now this puts Ollie in a very tough spot.
Yes, the Fugitive Codebreaker, it does have prowess and haste, but I don't quite think that's enough to keep Ollie alive. Especially, yeah, they didn't attack, which I think is good, but you don't ever want to be on the back foot blocking in these aggro matchups. It's not where you want to be. You want to just be the aggressor and keep pushing through that damage. But sometimes, it's a risk and you have to take it.
Definitely a risk there, and definitely, I mean, Waltz did have double removal, and against that, there's not much you can do.
Mhm. All right, Ollie's just gonna call it GG for game one, and we're gonna move into game two.
Very well played by both players there, and Waltz also doing a very good job at keeping being the aggressor, keep attacking, and yeah, just worked out pretty well. Here about sideboard, what do you think that the Gruul player might bring in?
Yeah, I saw that Ollie already brought in all four Tyvar stands and all four Play with Fires. This is definitely a matchup where those Play with Fires can take out pretty much every single one of Waltz's creatures as long as they don't get the +1/+1 off the Kumanos. The Tyvar stand, also a great way, basically just adding in some more Snakeskin Veils, but also allowing you to get some extra pumps if you have the mana and you just need to swing for like maybe 1 or 2 more damage for lethal.
Yeah, very interesting choices here. And I'm really a fan of the sideboard overall, not just against mono red, but I really like to see three pick your poisons there. Really prepared for the meta. Four soul guided lanterns. So I feel like somebody lost a lot against decks like Temur Analyst.
Yep, you always gotta hedge your bets against, some of those, major graveyard recursion decks that are very popular right now, specifically Temur Analyst.
I feel like Timor Analyst has been getting worse because everyone is prepared now for some sideboard graveyard hate.
Yeah, I know that Analyst can definitely sideboard in, some counters to some of that graveyard hate, but it definitely as soon as that graveyard starts to get picked away at, it becomes rough.
We saw there Ollie taking a mulligan.
Oof, I this is a little rough. I think this is even worse because now Ollie doesn't have any creatures in hand.
Yeah, this one is a bit worse than the first one, but can Ollie really afford to go on a mull to 5 on the play?
So I don't love this idea, but that ancestral anger can technically target Waltz's creatures to help Ollie draw another card and dig for a creature to play if they do not get one on their next draw step.
Oh, very smart. And also that Kumano can and will become a creature.
Yep, no target for the ancestral anger, so just a slow start over on the Gruul side.
Play with fire there by Waltz. Putting a card on top.
Definitely not what you usually want to see when you're playing against mono red. I'm interested to know if Waltz kept a one lander and just scryed a second land to top. I was punished plenty of times in testing for doing that, but sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes, as you said, it does work out. And here, a bit concerning. So we have the ancestral anger. Even if Waltz tries to do something like lightning bolt, Ollie still has that monstrous rage. So that does resolve. It gives an extra Kumano. So things starting to look up here a bit for Ollie.
Yeah, the Tyvar stand will give the Kumano some protection as well. So even though Ollie has a bit of a slow start, it looks like Waltz does as well. Gonna see a
Play
play
with
with
fire.
fire.
And now a choice to use the rage or
I think I would go for the rage because if you have to bait out a second play with fire, which I think is the only other single mana removal spell, that's 3 play with fires out of Waltz's hand that you don't have to contend with again.
exactly. And it looks like here uh, Ollie did decide to go for their monstrous rage, which was really nice, leaving Waltz down to 12 points of life. We have obliterating bolt, but Waltz really they are having a bit of a slow start for mono red. I mean, we didn't really see them do much except for reacting to things that Ollie is doing.
Yeah, I know that just from playing Waltz's deck, the sideboard for Waltz, those obliterating bolts came in. I'm assuming the 2 extra Witchstalker Frenzies came in, and I have a feeling that, some of the forges went out, so this might only be a single forge in the deck that we're seeing on the board, but that's actually pretty great for Waltz. That's a recurring, growing threat that Ollie will have to contend with.
And looks like Ollie just keep dealing damage face with that play with fire, leaving the ancestral anger on top of the deck. And now this is going to be quite a bit of damage if it's not blocked.
Mhm.
Oh, and it cannot be because it has menace now.
Yeah, menace and trample. So even if it didn't have the menace, I don't necessarily know if Waltz would want to block there. Losing that Swift Sphere, I think, puts Waltz even further behind.
And Ollie still having the protection in hand, so things are looking up. Ollie, I meant. Waltz down to 5 life, which is pretty low. And that forge is really good if you're the aggressor, but when you want to be reacting, it doesn't work that well.
I agree. It's not what Waltz probably wanted to see. Um, I know that Waltz is probably really hoping for some more removal pieces right now. However, we know Ollie has this protection. Seeing a squee come down.
I mean, Squeeze
Interested.
is a great card, but you cannot really attack, so.
Yeah, having it doesn't feel good when you have to leave 2 of your haste creatures back on defense when you're playing mono red.
Yeah, it definitely does not feel good.
I think with the Tyvar stand, I don't think this is quite enough for lethal. This is a difficult position to be in because you can't really stop progressing. But if you use the Tyvar stand, you can take out both the creatures, deal a little bit of damage, but then you're still leaving your Kumano potentially susceptible to removal next turn if Waltz gets it off the top.
And let's see here if Faults has any answer for
For
that
one
Tyvar stand.
for 1 mana, I think Play with Fire is the only potential card that Waltz might have, and that
Mm,
is not enough.
maybe a Monstrous Rage? It looks
Monstrous
like that's
Rage,
not it.
yeah. It still wouldn't take out the Kumano because the Tyvar stand gives it indestructible, so it would prevent a little bit of damage seeping through, but it wouldn't really help with any of the creatures surviving or, yeah, it's not a even Monstrous Rage would not help there.
And here Waltz only has one blocking creature, which now he's attacking. So, I mean, either they win now or they lose.
Yeah, and I don't think well, I think this is gonna be close, but I don't think it's just enough. Yep, off by 2.
Very close though. And I mean, great game here. We are going to have a game three.
Oh, that was a very, very close one. Looking at Ollie's sideboard again, looking to take out some more of the demonic ruckuses and potentially bringing in some pick your poisons.
I must say that after I saw Ollie Mool on the play, and that Mool was not even great, uh, and coming back just showed how strong the deck can be. I mean, Waltz also didn't quite have a very aggressive hand, but anyway, it was really interesting to see how the deck was so resilient, and yeah, it paid off in the end for Ollie.
Yeah, this matchup really comes down to how fast can you curve out and how much pressure can you keep applying against your opponent. And whilst that last game, there wasn't an early game. There wasn't that pressure there, and Ollie was able to come back even from a mulligan on the play.
And I have to say that playing these aggressive decks, the mirror, it's really tricky because you really have to decide if you're the aggressor, if you're defending. You want to sideboard removal, but not too much that you also stop trying to deal damage and try to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, a lot of people like to say that, mono red is, head empty, go burr, but, it, and granted, Ollie's playing Gruul, but there really is a finesse to like, what do I play at what times? You know, are things going to be balanced? Or am I gonna have enough spells to creatures? Is that ratio there? Am I aggressing? Am I gonna have enough card draw? I think that's the biggest struggle with some of these decks is that you just don't have a lot of card draw in it. So once your hand is like you run out, how do you refill that hand and keep applying more pressure?
I completely agree with you, Misha. And we see here that Tyvar stand protecting the monastery sweep spear,
Mhm.
which one of the cards that really pays off you being playing Gruul instead of mono red. Those protection spells really helping to make sure the creatures stay in the board.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as your creatures start getting picked off, and say you don't have more creatures in hand, your hand's empty and you're hellbent, it becomes so much more difficult than if you can just keep your creature on board.
I completely agree. And we might see a slick shot being plotted. Only a play with fire left in Ollie's hand, though.
I think Ollie is saving up to hopefully see if they can get an explosive turn next go around, keeping their slick shot saved from that play with fire removal. Because even though it gets semi prowess, it does not get the toughness buff like the Swift Spear does off the Play with Fire cast.
It does get a lot more attack, which is really good, but as you said, the toughness not quite there.
Yeah, the double the tough or the double the power, the not the toughness. It's great when you're aggressing, but very susceptible to a removal.
And very interesting. Here, Ollie waiting, not playing the sleek shot, just attacking with the Swiss spear and being really patient.
Yeah, Waltz isn't necessarily progressing the board as fast as, I've seen some of these games go. So I think Ollie is just biding their time to, bait out some more of the removal. I know there are, I think, 4 of lightning strikes in Walt's deck. But some of their removal is also just, sorcery speed. So, waiting for Waltz to maybe cast that on their turn, tap out, and then play that explosive slick shot and just swing for lethal in one go.
And once again, I'm really impressed by the patience because the way that I would have just already slammed the play with fire, but here, Ollie really waiting for that explosive turn and really nice to see actually people that do know how to play these aggro decks play them.
Yeah, I also would have been immediately playing all of that out and be like, show me if you have removal, and maybe testing fate a little more without having protection in hand.
Yes, that's why I feel like I cannot play these aggressive decks and I have to play mid-range piles because every time I try, I ran out of steam. But here, Ollie really showing that they master these this game and really putting patience.
Yeah, I can do the mono red. The green, that requires a next level patience that I don't know if I am capable of. This is a tricky position for Ollie because you cast the adventure side of questing druid and get a couple more potential cards and play the slick shot out, or do you baiting that removal, or do you wait? And Ollie elected to wait and did certainly bait the removal.
So one removal piece out of the way. Those are great news, but still more to come. And still, Holly here deciding not to cast that play with fire and waiting a bit longer.
Now, the fugitive codebreaker does have prowess, so there is a chance that Ollie could just remove Waltz's creature from the board, but if Waltz happens to have, say, a monstrous rage or just any other instant speed spell, be it a play with fire, lightning bolt to the face, that codebreaker might get out of range of the play with fire removal.
And here, using the adventure side of questing druid.
All right. Well, I'm interested to see if Ollie is going to use that play with fire on the codebreaker, or, potentially even on Waltz's slick shot to remove a potential blocker.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
good idea because I do see on Ollie's side that slick shot that we know it's plotted, plus a bunch of pump spells that are available. We have the monstrous rage, we have the ancestral anger.
honestly, that actually, the knowing that the monstrous rage is there, that could get the slick shot out of range of the single play with fire if that is what Waltz is holding. So I think Ollie may be safe to remove the code breaker or the slick shot, but I don't even know if I mean, I think the slick shot removal might be worth it, but I don't think I'd even be worried about the code breaker because the chances of them having something to kill Ollie this turn are basically 0. Also, I just want to say thank you so much, Fisher Magic, Dana. We appreciate the raid. Welcome in, Raiders.
Oh, thank you so much. Welcome everyone. Happy Friday. And I think this is going to be the decisive turn here for Ollie. They might be able to finish the game right now.
Yeah, I think that's what I would go for. I think this is the turn. Gonna cast that monstrous rage, try to buff it out of removal range. And it it happened, yeah, and then
Oh,
we get
and
the
with
protection.
protection. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, as soon as the monstrous rage resolved, that, you know, that was the end all there.
This card is so powerful. I'm a big fan of how Ollie played this game. I mean, I know they are your friend, Misha, so congrats to them. Waltz also playing really well the mono red side of it. But yeah, overall, just great games. We saw both decks able to win a game, but Ollie here, they able to take the match win. And very interesting to see this Gruul deck making a really powerful play here in this round.
Yeah, for a Gruul aggro deck, I wanna say that felt more like watching a mid-range game. The patience necessary. Uh, I applaud you because I could never.
I completely agree with you, but now that we got these aggro matches out of the way on our first match, let's take a look here at our players for our second match of the day. And we have Amanda on Division 8, and she's playing Golgari mid-range. So we go from these aggressive decks to more of a mid-range deck. And I feel like Golgari mid-range has been a choice for a while, not the most played deck, but still a very viable choice in the mid range realm. We saw Reduke play it at the Pro Tour. What do you think of this list here that Amanda decided to bring this week?
I'm actually a big fan of the Golgari mid-range deck. I think there's a lot of versatility. It can go extremely fast, but it has a lot of weight still into the mid and late game. I think Amanda even said what sets her deck apart is that there's a lot more disruption, which I think sets her up better for going into the mid and late range. Prevents some of the early stuff that would help the opponent get ahead earlier. I'm really in favor. I love Golgari though, so maybe I'm biased.
Same. I'm also biased. This is a deck that I really love to play. And Amanda is playing against, let's take a look here, against a deck that I also been playing. A LadyJ, she's playing Temur Analyst, another deck that is just swoop the format. I remember when I played against this deck the first time. It is not a fun deck to play against, but I must admit it is a pretty fun deck to play with. And yeah, a lot of a ramp and just World Soul Rage to hopefully finish off the game. How do you think this might pair up against Golgari?
Ooh, this is tough because Temur Analyst has so many ways to buy things back from the graveyard. So, I know that the Golgari deck has a lot of disruption. The bats are pretty good, but as soon as an ill-timed explosion comes down, those cards come back to hand. If something gets, uh, removed and goes to the graveyard, if you don't have, graveyard hate, um, this deck can usually get it back pretty easy between the lands with your analyst, the virtue of strength adventure side, or I think I'm not sure if I see it in there. I know Shigeki has been a common staple in those, but I think we've got more bristly bills over here. I think that's a really neat addition. Sometimes if you can't quite get there with the World Souls Rage, just make your Nissa or your bristly bill huge with all the landfall triggers.
That's definitely a great addition for the deck. And I was taking a look here at the main deck for the Golgari mid-range player, and there's no Frillback main, but there's Frillback sideboard and licensed sideboard. So definitely a lot of graveyard strategy post side. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. And I think our players are ready here to start our second match of the day. And I'm really excited for this one. I love both these decks. So really, really excited to see how this pans out. First, we see that Amanda only one land, and I sorry I'm laughing, but Phoebe left this message. This match has been time adjusted. Love Phoebe. So I think the match went uh maybe too long, and we just had to speed it up a bit.
Yeah, I think it went the full time allotted that arena allows. So we sped that up for both our and your sake.
That cut down coming really quickly. Bill is not staying on the board. You gotta kill Bill immediately.
Kill Bill, I love it. I didn't even put that together.
And we have the aftermath analysis in Lady J's side, but I feel like she knows there's a lot of removal in Golgari's side. So being really careful on when to play. That analyst looks like it's going to come into board now, and that cut down. Yes, it's rough, but we know that Lady J does have a plan B with their virtue being able to get back the analyst.
Yeah, I think at this point, Lady J is just trying to bait out as much of Amanda's removal as she can. Knows that she can get the analyst back with the adventure side of the virtue. And by the time she gets it back, we'll have probably close to the 6 mana needed to play it out and sacrifice it, doing the graveyard recursion.
And we might see just passing here. I mean, there's the fires, but I think that only deals 3 damage at the moment, so not enough to take care of that preacher.
Yeah, these preachers, how are they only rare? These have been some of the best cards to come out of the set. Almost every black deck is playing it.
Yeah, it's definitely a great card. I also have to say that overall Golgari has a really tough spot because there's so many amazing 3 drops available that it's difficult to choose from.
Yeah, I know that I love the Dread Knight. Technically, it's a 2 and 2, but yeah, there's a lot of slots in the Golgari list that are, so many contenders.
Definitely, and we see the second preacher make it into the board. And I really love how Lady J is really playing this game with calm, just trying to remove things slowly. In the end, she knows she's able to win if she starts comboing, and that's the goal, is to arrive to a position that she's able to do so this analyst definitely is going to do a lot of work. I'm not sure how many lands there are in the graveyard, but there are quite a few.
I think at least 5. That was a very quick peek at the graveyard, but I think I saw at least 5, and I think 3 of them are the SNC life game sack lands.
And there's a Nisa on Lady J's end. So if that Nisa drops and that analyst is able to then be cracked for mana, this is going to be a lot of mana available. And then the best part is that often Nisa is able, if you play then 2 lands, to get back another analyst. You do it all over again, get even more lands. Uh, but here, Lady J blocking and just going for guaranteed ramp and a lot of lands entering the battlefield here.
Yes, I think that was the correct move for Lady J. Prevent as much, life loss as you can. Get those cards back. You're starting your combo, and in this position, seeing both hands, I definitely think Lady J is, in the more favorable one right now, with the Memory Deluge also in the graveyard, being able to flash it back and just taking a quick peek at how many lands are over on Lady J's side. I don't think that 7 mana is much to worry about.
Ooh, we have a timed explosion. That card can be really good against this board. I think though that Lady J might be tempted to get something like Nisa here, or
Yeah, if I'm on Lady J's side, she has a healthy 16 life. Amanda is presenting what 6 damage, but with what she has in hand, what she can, she's already ramping up with the first virtue of strength. We know there's a second one. Uh, yeah, gonna go ahead and clear that board. Not gonna risk anything, but she's setting herself up for a long-term success.
with the amount of lands that Lady J has access to, and with their virtue being into play, now this aftermath analysis. And we still have that memory deluge, which I feel like it's the nail in the coffin because that card is able to try to get. You just need one World Soul Rage, and you know that Golgari is not playing anything that can destroy that. I mean, there's no counter magic, so
Yeah,
Lady J just needs to get that World Soul Rage, and that's game.
Yeah, and with that memory deluge able to dig so deep and all of that mana, what is it? 6, 12, 16 mana times 3. I know I'm an engineer, but I'm not that good at math. Can't do that off the top of my head, but I know it's a lot.
It's it's probably enough.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much, but it's enough.
What, 15 times 3 is 45. Add
Oh, but look at that great play here, exiling that memory deluge.
yeah.
Thanks, Phoebe. I really like the play here of attacking with the Restless Kutash to be able to exile the Deluge. And now, actually, Lady Jane a bit of a tougher spot. And I wish we could see how many cards she has left in the deck.
Yeah, playing the analyst, trying to find maybe another deluge that she can flash back. Not gonna quite get there, but Lady J does still have a very, very healthy life total and can just sack that analyst, get more lands, get more life. Um, she has some time to work with.
And there's a lot of great draws that this deck can have. It's not only the World Soul Rage, you can also get another Virtue to maybe get a creature back, Memory Deluge, as you said. The Timed Explosion draws you cards.
Mhm. I mean, honestly, getting a bristly bill out on the board, the Liliana makes the bristly bill a little bit less good, being able to just tick down, make Lady J sacrifice. But there's some options.
There's definitely a lot of options available. And I mean, here I think Amanda is just praying that Lady J does not top deck one of the potential answers available in the deck.
That is not one of the answers just yet. So Amanda will at least probably get one more turn to find some cards that'll help out.
And the thing is that even if these Liliana minuses, like, yes, you can take care of the Virtue or some lands, but it's still not quite enough. So it's one of those rare cases where Liliana minus is actually not enough if Lady J ends up getting a World Soul Rage.
Yeah. Yeah, because with all the lands that are on Lady J's side, a single World Soul's Rage is not going to get you out of, I think, lethal damage range. Because thank you to Phoebe, I now know that 16 times 3 is 48.
And we see here Liliana. I think Amanda deciding like, do I want to plus this Liliana? Do I want to minus? I mean, is that a point of doing it? Not really. So plusing here the Liliana and attacking with Preacher of the Season. This card is so good. Ooh, I love it. We have a Bronco in hand. This card is so strong.
I really enjoyed watching the Orzhov snore stack. We might have one of those coming up later. Spoilers.
Ooh, I'm excited to see that. We have the time explosion here. We might just see. I mean, Lady J can just deny, but discarding would mean 3 damage to the board. That would take care of everything except the Preacher. It would also kill the Analyst. So
Yeah.
looks like a Lady J deciding to do that. And a Bat is great, but when your opponent does not have cards in hand, it's not as good.
I think if I'm Lady J, or I'm sorry, if I'm Amanda, I think I just activate my lands and start attacking in. I believe Lady J has no cards in hand, so it's just kind of an easy an easy push, damage push.
Yeah, trying to fasten that clock because every turn that Lady J gets is another potential turn to combo and finish the game. So, as you said, I also agree. Amanda might need to start attacking with those lands and making as much pressure as possible. And we are going to see that Liliana minus.
This is this is so interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen the Liliana -6 actually happen.
It's a great thing to witness. It's rare, as you said, but once in a while it does happen. Again, this is maybe not the best situation for it to happen, but it actually is enough to make sure that World Soul Rage is not enough to kill Amanda, because right now this is
14
like,
lands, I think.
so that's 12 damage. It's definitely not enough.
And exiling one of those World Souls Rages from the graveyard. So yeah, Amanda doesn't have a lot of graveyard hate in the main, but those cottages, incremental.
Definitely, and we see here LadyJ getting a Maestro's Theater, which is not exactly what she's looking for. There's not even basics left in the deck, and chances are thinning
Third
out here for
cottage.
LadyJ, and things are starting to look very good for Amanda.
Yeah, getting another cottage. I don't think we're gonna see three cottage activations anytime soon, but more lands help you get closer to that being able to have a second cottage activation on Amanda's turn.
And we are going to have a closeout of this game pretty soon because, I mean, Amanda needs only one more turn to finish this game. And even if Lady J does find an answer, those restless coutages, they stay on the board. So it's going to be difficult to play against it.
Yeah, there. Lady J might be able to gain enough life to buy herself a couple more turns, but this is definitely not looking optimistic for her.
Oh,
Oh,
I would love to see these a couple turns ago. I mean,
yeah.
to be fair, it is still a lot of damage. It's still 12 damage. I'm not sure how many lands that are available on Lady J's graveyard. They are able to gain life, but at the same time, I feel like these coutages might be picking up at these lands. So, not quite sure how much life.
Yeah, I think the cottages have been picking out spells and not lands, but I think Lady J is actually just running out of gas in her deck. Because I know that we've seen at least of two of the virtues. I think this is at least the second Roll Souls Rage. I think one has already been exiled. I think we've seen a few of the ill-timed explosions. So I think she might be able to hold on, but I don't know if she has many ways to finish the game out.
I agree. And I don't know if this is 5 plus 4, that's 9. So, there's 9 damage available. That's not quite enough. And if Lady J does get another World Soul Rage, then that's game.
Yeah, there is still the foods. What is it, 6? Yeah. I think that Lady J would have enough, but it would have to be another Roll Souls off the top to close it.
So we see this Restless Kutaj going to attack once again, and this land just showing how powerful it is because I feel like without this land, this game would have been really different.
Mhm.
Getting another World Soul Rage.
Yeah.
That's 9 damage, leaving Lady J down to 2 life.
And
Now able to eat 2 foods.
yep, can gain up to 6 more life. All right, 6.
Okay.
6, 12. Was it 6?
12 plus 5, that's 17, that's 15 damage. So it's exactly.
Wow.
This is 15 damage. This is exact damage.
We even said that we would have to have a Souls Rage off the top to make it happen, and here we are for exactsies.
For Exacxis. I feel so bad for Amanda, but I mean, Lady J really needing that those top decks and getting them.
Wow. You can never count that team or analyst deck out, am I right?
Yeah, just for exact damage. That's the thing that got me for exact Cs. And I mean, it is how it works sometimes. And we have the sideboard now. I mean, as I said before, Golgari midrange has some graveyard answers. What do you think here that we might see as well from this deck post sideboard?
Oh, it's difficult because I would have wanted probably more graveyard hate if I'm being honest, but I'm not really sure. What do you think, Philippa?
Yeah, for sure I would bring the Eris's. For sure I would bring those Tranquil Frillback. Now, one thing that I am seeing that I have to say that I am personally loving is that I haven't seen anyone play the Gitrog, Ravenous Ride, and we see it coming post sideboard. Uh, I'm really excited to see if that card makes it into the game because I haven't seen it play constructed. I have played it in draft and it's pretty good, but
I love the addition of the Titan of Industry. It gains life. It can get a what is it called? A one of those counters that give it protection. And yeah, I like the addition of the Bonnie Pauls too. Being able to push just a lot of damage, especially when, some things start to I don't necessarily want to say dirtle, but when it starts to go a little bit longer.
I agree. And are we seeing Amanda with the one lander?
We Ataka Numa. There is a duress. Oh, never didn't have it. Might still need some green mana, but
Yeah, but that Earth definitely will be able to slow down Lady J quite a lot, especially because we know that she has access to three aftermath analysis.
yeah, this hearse is gonna hurt. Just being able to instantly exile those lands, and those analysts are gonna get no value at all.
Yeah, so this analyzer is going to start doing quite the job, and that's the perfect top deck there. Uh, a Greenland able to get this preacher into play.
This this is really interesting. I yeah, the three analysts that aren't really gonna be able to do too much. Oh, I do like that there's a titan of industry on the other side, though. I don't know. It's gonna take a while to get there, but once that titan comes out, it's it's gonna be an interesting game because these creatures do have death touch, but the titan can get a what are those counters called? It's driving me crazy.
It's a protection counter. Let me
Since
see
so
here.
a shield, that's right.
A
Thank you,
shield counter,
Phoebe.
yeah.
Yes, shield counters.
To be honest, maybe wrongly, I always use the 4/4 in that scenario when I'm playing Titan.
I mean, it's hard to go wrong with the 4/4. It would be very circumstantial for me to want to put a protect or to put the shield counter on, and I think the death touch might be one of the few reasons why I might, if I just needed to block against the death touch or kill it and keep my 7/7 on board.
Oh yeah, for sure. Against Golgari is exactly when you want to use that shield counter to be able to dodge things like go for throat as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think here I just keep picking away at Lady J's lands because that memory deluge, it's still going to be a little ways off before she can flash that back and get any value off of it. So I think we can wait um, to exile it till right now.
There's also the Tranquil Frillback, which just can get rid of all the graveyard eventually. But I must say that Earth is also getting quite scary. It has 8 cards exiled, so it's already an 8/8 if Amanda does decide to go more aggressive and attacking with it.
And I believe the crew is for two, correct? So
Correct.
those little vampires in a hearse. It sounds poetic. 2 vampires and a hearse.
Yeah, it might be all it takes for Amanda to take on this game. We do know about Titan of Industry, but that's still quite a few turns away. We have another analyst, but it's so awkward to play that analyst, putting cards into the graveyard, knowing that we are just going to be feeding that Earth.
Yeah, I think the only thing you can really hope for is, say you mill a bunch of lands off of them and you're able to immediately bring them back while the hearse is tapped.
And one card that we saw there was we saw the Virtue picking up at the Bonnie Paul, which I'm excited to see play here. And I think it can be played next turn already.
Yes. 6, and we see that last island, the second blue necessary for Bonnie Paul. I I'm really excited. I know Bonnie Paul is a limited just bomb, but to see it actually getting, it's time to shine in standard, I love that for her.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite great because, first of all, you're making two creatures, which already is great against cards like Go for Throat that we see in hand for Amanda.
Yeah,
And then it just gives you so much value. You can start drawing cards.
it's 2 creatures, but they're also both huge creatures. They're
I
not like a
completely agree.
Yeah, it's not like one big, one small. It's 2 big immediately. That's wild.
And I'm excited to see here if Lady J goes for it. And she does. Bonnie Paul making it into the battlefield, immediately getting Go for Throat, but there's going to be a creature behind, and it's going to be quite a big one, a 6/6. Of
Yep.
course, there's that touch on the other side, as we know. See a triple block there for one of the analysts.
I think this is a
I
good
mean,
move. Yeah,
yeah,
you lose 1, you still have 2, you can still crew your 10-10 hearse. Bo is a big cow, but that hearse is a bigger car.
yeah, and Amanda has the chance as well to just take care of the board, cut down the analyst, then Liliana minus Bo, and um, and yeah, just start attacking with that Earth, and a couple of turns that would be enough. Because right now that would be 12 damage, and yeah, just making sure that next turn could be the last one that Lady JS.
Yeah, because we do see that Lady J has an ill-timed explosion, which, could take out, the preacher and the tokens, but we know there's a tranquil throwback, can crew the hearse and swing for lethal next turn. Uh,
I think the best option would be that Titan of Industry, but unfortunately for Lady J, she's not able to get the seventh mana that she does need to be able to fire it off. So I think this is going to be ending quite soon. I mean, that analyst is going to be able to block the 10/10, so it's not over yet.
mhm. Yeah. It is still gonna be tough because, if Amanda crews the hearse, swings in with both the preacher and the 10-10, the preacher is still gonna tick down, put her to 4. Like, it's looking dicey.
It's looking dicey, and now Amanda is going to put a lot of pressure because this Tranquil Thrillback is like, I'm going to exile your graves. Your analyst is going to be terrible, so no need to sacrifice it. And Lady J cannot even sacrifice it in response because then she would not have a blocker and she would die for that Earth. So
Mhm.
very well played there by Amanda. And we have to see that analyst block the Earth.
Oh, that's right. Because the frillback can crew, those 2 extra tokens get in, so actually putting Lady J down to 2.
Yeah, and this Liliana can plus, but it can also not plus if Amanda really wants to keep both cards in hand here. And it looks like she does.
I
So we might see a timed explosion. We might see a Titan now.
yeah, this is difficult. Ah, if you play the Nissa, you play the island. I think you still have enough for the explosion, but then you don't have a Nissa. So yeah, I
But
think
this Titan, I feel like it might need to gain life.
yeah, gain the life, break the hearse.
But we know about that Tyr Ascender, and this is going to be game for Amanda here, showing how important sideboard is and how important those Ursus were in this matchup.
And I want to just say that that was also Xaxis for lethal. And again.
Now I have to say that if both players are rewatching this match, we saw the Temur analyst get really lucky with those top deck after top deck in game one. But to make up for it, Amanda also got pretty lucky in game two because we have to remember that she started with the one land.
Oh my goodness, yes. That's sometimes you just have to believe in the heart of the cards and that that
Exactly.
that it will provide you lands.
So I think things just overall work each other. Sometimes you got lucky, sometimes your opponent gets lucky, and that's part of magic as well. I feel like both players play these games really well, so I'm excited to see which one is able to take the crown here and be victorious after this game three.
Oh, we have another one land hand for Amanda. Does she keep it though? We do have a duress. There's some options, but oh, this is so scary.
My toxic trait is that I would keep a one lander and I would say, I'm on the draw.
I would too, though. I'm so guilty of that as well.
But Amanda here playing very careful and deciding not to do that and being rewarded because these Multi 6 is quite good with three bats and one hearse.
I think the only thing that punishes Amanda for keeping this 3-bat hand is if Lady J top decks an ill-timed explosion.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But still able to delay a bit things. And I mean, we might see another bat enter the battlefield.
Mhm.
Yeah, there it is. Another bat taking that deluge.
This,
And no explosion yet.
yeah, only lands, which, I didn't know this, but did you know hearses like eating lands?
I've heard so, and we might start seeing an Earth soon. These
If I'm
bats will.
If I'm Amanda, I do not think I play that duress. You already know that most of the cards on Lady Oh!
But wait, it needs to get non-lands.
Oh, no! Only more lands! Oh.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because I've been in that spot and I've been punished by that. Sometimes this actually does happen.
Oh, I feel for Lady J. That was not the draws you wanted off of that. Amanda
Yeah,
gonna
this
take a
bat
peek.
just. Yeah. I mean, Lady J might still be able to, get another timed explosion. But here, Amanda playing really well that Earth to be like, okay, if you have an explosion, that's fine because I'll still have my Earth. And these analysts can actually, I don't know if I would just crack it immediately to make sure I get some lands before these Earth starts exiling more
Oh,
things.
if I'm Lady J, I immediately crack it. There were at least 3 more of the lands that search out more lands, and if I'm in her position, I wanna get as many lands out of my deck as possible so that I am just drawing straight gas from here on out.
One great card to get in the graveyard is Memory Deluge. Unfortunately, that's just food for the Earth,
Yeah.
which I'm sure immediately goes and takes care of it.
Yeah, not gonna let Lady J have any chance to untap and cast it.
Oh no. And this is slowly but surely, these 1/1 bats are dealing quite a bit of damage and also the 3/2. And now Amanda has to play a game where she wants to play things, but does she want to commit? And it looks like she does. She does commit to the board.
Yeah, it's It's a scary thing to do because, I think we've only seen one ill-time explosion that was cast, and I don't think there have been any more that have been milled. So you know that though there's still a possibility that you could have your entire board wiped. But I think you just have to be the aggressor here. You have to be extremely aggressive and just try to push through as much damage as you can.
I completely agree, and I'm curious to see now what exactly are going to be the attacks here for Amanda. I mean, obviously the bats can go. Uh, Billy does not have
I think
reach.
if I'm Amanda, I think I would, obviously send the bats, send the preacher, and yeah, I think I would saddle up that Bronco and see what I get, and just deal. You're gonna end up dealing more damage to Lady J unless you draw a land.
Every time that I settle up my Bronco, I draw a land. And every time that I don't, I draw the most expensive spell I have in my library. And that's just how magic works.
The curse of the Bronco.
Yeah, I don't make the rules. It's just how it does happen. Here, not a lot of damage taken. And we see that Bronco being destroyed, but quite a bit of damage passing through. Lady J down to 8 life. And we know that that end only has lands. And these Earths getting pretty big fast.
I think there's only a few, like Lady J at this point. I think needs either an ill-time explosion or a World Soul's Rage just to stay in it for this next turn.
Or yeah, or a deluge into, I don't think Titan is enough. I mean,
I think Lady J is too wide at this point, uh, for the Titan to be able to do very much.
yeah, just playing here a bat to be one extra creature to attack next turn. And let's see what the top deck is for a Lady J. I mean, she did it before. Nisa. Okay, Nisa is not too bad because you Nisa, you play one of these lands, you hope to get a Titan because it's an elemental, so you can get a Titan out of these. You the worst case scenario, you get another Nisa. Best case scenario, you get a Titan or an Analyst.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm assuming that there's still lands. Okay, there are. So let's see what is the elemental that Nisa gets. Oh no, it's the worst
Oh,
one. Yeah, it's another Nisa.
that is unfortunately not what she wanted to see there, and I
Definitely is
think
not. I mean, those
in
creatures are really big, but the issue is that Lady J is going wide.
I think that Lady J still survives, but if Amanda does attack all, she goes down to, I think, 2, if I did the math correctly. But actually, I think even less because now we can crew with the hearse.
Yeah, it's a rough spot because for sure Lady J does not want to block the preachers because they do have that touch.
Yeah, I think there's 8 damage presented that would, if you did your optimal blocks, it would be 8 damage pushing through.
And that Billy is really scary because with this much mana available, these creatures are getting so big, but there's no trample, so I mean,
Yeah, you leave that second Mosswood Dreadwood Knight back as a blocker. Uh yeah, I think you just push through 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even if you took all of that damage, you're still at 1.
oh, I like this card a lot. I mean, we might see, yeah, we might see the Nisa block because there's another Nisa. So I'm not too surprised. And next turn again, Lady J can try to do the same. And this time, hope to not get a Nisa out of the Nisa. And I feel like a Titan or an Analyst would maybe put Lady J back into the game.
Yeah, there's a few options. It's Oh.
Ooh, wait a second. What is this? A timed explosion?
The Nissa is not enough to clear everything, but that preacher is tapped.
It's not a good game yet, but ooh, yeah.
Is there enough mana for the Bristly Bill to get doubled is my question, because if it gets I guess the hearse can still crew. You can
The
crew the
Earth can
hearse.
crew,
The
but
hearse
then
can
it has to
crew,
jump.
it does have to chump, and then do we have oh, the Gitrog monster, I believe it has haste, is that correct?
It does have haste. We might also see a doppelganger because there's enough mana to do doppelganger for 2. So we might just see that happen. And here for sure, LadyJ needs to crew
Mhm.
because no other option available. So we see the explosion is going to resolve. That also gives cards back to LadyJ, which now has a lot of options available. And I think here, maybe LadyJ just even trying to get something out of that deluge.
Mhm.
Um, Not quite sure what, but maybe a way to deal with that Earth. Although that wouldn't be enough.
Yeah, because if you attack with Bristly Bill, you you have to chump with the hearse. It's well, you technically don't. That is not enough. I don't believe it is not enough for lethal, so you don't actually have to chump there.
And now the question, does Lady J attack or does she keep these to block? Because it's an important decision.
I th- I think she has to keep it to block because if any creature comes out and you have I mean, you already know the Dread Knights can be recast and can crew, so you have to leave the Bristly Bill back as a blocker, but the Gitrog has haste, and so, it's hard because you can either only cast the Gitrog or only cast the Dread Knights. There's not enough mana to do both.
Well, you could Carvec, Duress, go for throat the Bristibial and attack, right? Like
That
use the Carvec to crew. But I'm not sure
that's
if there's a go for throat in the grave, so maybe that's not a possibility.
that's true. I'm not sure if what is in the graveyard. But I do see the timer ticking down, and it looks like there's only 3 minutes left on Amanda's timer.
Yeah, and a lot of difficult decisions here. I mean, now she cannot attack. She's seeing Lady J at 8 life, but just able to get things back and back again. And I mean, she knows there's a doppelganger, Fires of Victory, Bonnie Pal. So a lot of ways for Lady J to now recover things. So it's not looking too good for Amanda, but again, that Gitrog can take Lady J out of surprise.
Yeah, Lady J would have to gain some life here, but we there's no lands in her hand to be able to to trigger the Nissa life gain, to get any of the recursion land life gain. So she's in a very tricky spot here because it's like you really want to start pushing with Bristly Bill to try to take Amanda's side down, get that through for lethal, but you also have to be very careful that you're not leaving yourself susceptible to lethal.
Yeah, and I feel like this Bonnie Pal, oh, just doppelganging. Oh, now there's infinite mana. Like,
Yes.
that's 76 floating, right? Great.
Yep.
So, I mean, a lot of options. There's the Deluge as well. That's only 4 mana. Now, Lady J just needs to find a one World Soul Rage, and that's going to definitely be enough.
Yeah, I mean,
Did not find it, but there's more ways to try to get it. I mean, Disney's just floating 78 more mana. Titan of Industry. I feel bad for Amanda, but I feel like 4 virtues is something that you cannot go back
yeah.
from.
Is 70 a lot of mana? I'm asking for a friend. No, I mean, it always could be more.
Yeah, 70 just from one land. Uh, oh, this timed explosion. Okay, and yeah, Emman is like, I got it. You got this one.
Yeah, she saw the writing on the wall as soon as the doppelgang went off, and we have 4 virtues of strength, and it's it was very, very close for a few turns there, and then, you doppelgang and things change.
It just goes to show how this Temur Analyst deck can be resilient. And now, post sideboard with new options like Bony Paul, things can get quite dicey. And even though Amanda did have that Earth, was not enough. And every turn that Lady J got, it was one turn closer to getting that top deck, getting a card that changes the game. And in the end, there are so many cards that are game changing in that Analyst deck. It's not just the World Soul Rage, it can be a delusion to it. Once you have the mana, the options are limitless, but I feel like it was a great match here.
Yes, it was very dicey, like, when Lady J was at 4 life and we had a hasty get Rog, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think this is gonna come through," and, it was a very exciting match, and congratulations, both players, you played amazing, and big congrats to Lady J on taking that one home.
Congratulations, and let's take a look now at our third match of the day. I'm really excited to see. So far, we see four different decks, and we have two more. So today we only have different decks back to back to back. Every player decided to bring something different to the table. And we have here barelyRebecca, and she is playing Bant Toxic. I have seen Rebecca on Twitter. She's really funny. And I know that she's been practicing a lot for the RC. So go, Rebecca. Bant Toxic is definitely an interesting choice. I feel like this deck I don't want to say it's not tier one, but I feel like it's not being tier one, but it can be really strong, especially against particular matchups. What do you think of this deck here in this meta?
I agree with you. Bant Toxic is not what I consider a tier 1 deck, but like you said, in certain matchups, if you have a feeling you know what your opponent's gonna play, it can be very, very good against, certain other decks. This is one of my guilty pleasure decks. Counting's hard. I learned that with Temur Analyst. Those things tapping for 70, no thank you. Bant Toxic, you only have to count to 10. You're only trying to get 10 poison. That's easy. I like it. I like it when my numbers math easier. I'm a fan.
I love these. And you know what? With Temur Analyst gaining so much life, Ben Toxic is like, I do not care. You can gain 100 life. Gain all the life that you want with those lands. I just need to count to 10, as you said. And let's see what Rebecca is playing against this week and what opponent she's facing.
Yeah, remember how I
Looks
said
like
Snorse was coming through? Here is our Snorse deck.
oh, I love it. So we have Soph here, and they are playing Orzhov Midrange with that Bronco that we saw earlier on. I have to say, I'm excited to see this deck play. It might be an idea for me for my YouTube channel to be playing this list because I haven't seen Orzhov before. This is actually new to me. Why do you think Soph decided to bring this deck this week?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of cheap removal. There's some I think board wipes. There's the Path of Perils on the sideboard. There's the duresses. The Steel Seraphs and Shoulders. There's a lot of life gain. There's a lot of evasion. Steel Seraphs I think give flying, so there's a lot of way to punch through. This is one of those decks, however, where all that life gain may not save you if you take 10 poison. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two decks match up against each other because unlike some of like the teamer analyst decks or the domain decks that don't really care about having creatures on board to block in the early game, which is where the Bant Toxic deck really shines because it's like, oh, you're not going to impede my little 1/1s getting through to poison you. This actually has a fair amount of creatures in the early game that can block and prevent getting poisoned. So I'm very interested to see how these 2 match up against one another.
Definitely. And I saw that Soph replied in the questionnaire. That what do you think is your best card in this matchup? Probably the Path of Peril in the sideboard, and I do agree. So I'm excited to see how that Path of Peril works against a bunch of 1/1 poisons creatures. Let's take a look here as our players get ready for our match 3 of the day. I'm really excited for this one. I was not expecting to see it was not on my bingo card, an Absent Toxic versus the Orzhov deck, but glad that I got to see it.
Same. I like this hand for Rebecca. Seed Core, Rot Priest on 1, Duelist on 2. I don't love that you don't have blue to cast the Fading Hope and March of Swirling Mist, but I think I'd be keeping this.
Yeah, looks like Rebecca agrees with you and decides to keep this. Also, I must say that I want a petition for these lands, these basic lands, to be banned, because that plains look like like a mountain to me, and you cannot tell me that it doesn't.
I'll have to admit that also the swamps and islands, and there's a lot of them that look like other colors, but they're so pretty, Philippa. They're so
They are
pretty.
beautiful. I'm joking. They are beautiful. I think it's a great land choice, but it always messes with my brain.
I do agree. They do get very confusing very easily, so I'll concede that point.
We have a cut down immediately taking care of that rod priest, but I mean, I guess there's one toxic already,
Yeah,
like one poison counter.
I think getting into this type of matchup, getting that first poison counter is extremely important because there's cards that proliferate, and if you don't have a poison counter, you can't proliferate it. But if you at least have one, you can start, using some of those to get where you want to go.
I completely agree. And these Scrubs Ive is also going to start doing some work. Now, things are a bit weird because the mana situation for Rebecca is not great, and she will have to rely a lot on these Krelves I've doing the job.
Yeah, this I know those Path of Perils are in the sideboard, so Soph is not gonna wanna have to, use all of their removal on these little 1/1 might tokens. That is absolutely not ideal. But, it also makes it difficult for Soph to like start attacking if they don't have another creature that can block. Because these poison counters, they can kind of get out of hand out of nowhere. When Rebecca finally does get a blue mana, that March of Swirling Mist, it can be so nasty because even if Soph has a huge board, uh, that mist says, "No, you don't. Let me punch through for all this remaining poison I need."
And another one bites the dust. Now, there is the blue source that Rebecca was looking for that is really important. We
This is
might see a fading
this is
hope.
yeah, this is tricky because if I'm Rebecca, I might consider fading hoping the bat, playing my duelist out, but I don't want to see a bat come down and take my largest rolling mist. So like that is I would not want that trade-off. I think I would just, although I do want my 1/1 double striker, I don't think it's worth like losing my March's rolling mist in the process.
I agree, and we see here Soph attacking with the bat, leaving that 2/2 to block, and we might see this Eiganjo being able to get the duelist back, and at no cost of that bat being back.
Yeah, so I think this is a good play. Let's see. Looks like Soph has priority here. What do they got going on?
Good question.
I'm,
I mean, I'm not sure what might be a removal spell, but
I could believe a removal spell. I don't think that Soph has any spells that give protection that would keep the bat alive. Gumdrop Poisoner. Okay, that is a way to take out some of these mites. If we had, is it? Oh, do you need food for that? I think you need food for that. This
so
is
we
a
do
little
see.
Yeah, this is a little tricky though because with Soph having things with 2 toughness, these little mites unfortunately can't quite attack in just yet. But we do know that if Rebecca builds up a wide board and then just miss Soph's board state, this could just be a one attack kill.
Yeah, I think that's what Rebecca is going for. Uh, Although Soph is doing a good job of having creatures to be able to block those mites, we might see a march here.
Going to exile the Fading Hope, protect the Duelist, and it looks like phase out the Gumdrop Poisoner. Or maybe the Shepherd?
Yeah, it's a tough decision here.
The Gumdrop Poisoner cares about how much life you gain. I couldn't remember if it was the amount of food you had or the amount of life. That
Yeah, it's the amount of life it gives. When enters the battlefield, it gives minus X to a creature, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn.
all right. Soph choosing not to attack. Gonna try to prevent as much poison as possible. It
Yeah,
looks
and
like
here
Rebecca.
Rebecca does. She doesn't really care about guy life gaining, right? Because she just wants to win with the poison counters.
Mhm. And we do have 3 poison now, which what is that nice fun term when you have 3 poison? It's not infected. I mean, you are kind of infected, but
You are
corrupted. You're
definitely affected.
corrupted.
Yeah,
You're corrupted. That's the term.
yeah. It does. Being corrupted does affect things like the land. Um,
So that seed core can now start pumping up some of these mites that potentially can start breaking through some of Soph's defenses.
yeah, and so with two cards remaining in hand,
Yeah, Rebecca has baited out quite a bit of removal from Soph so far. We've seen what two go for the throats, at least one cut down. I think it was the cut down used on the venerated rot priest turn one. But now Rebecca can also start gaining life. All of these mites, anything with toxic, is now life linking.
oh yeah, you're right because of the corrupted on the Skrelvzive.
Mhm.
Um, that's going to definitely help out Rebecca on being able to be aggressive, but at the same time not being afraid of the crackback on soft side.
Yeah, because right now, if Rebecca bounces the shepherd on instep, oh, yikes, that is not what you want to see coming down. I think that's more of a better target for a fading hope to bounce back
Oh
to
yeah,
hand.
I would so fast get that fading hope on that children.
Absolutely. Because if you were to seed core some of your mites, like you can attack those into the shepherd, but that Shieldred's gonna start doing some work.
Yeah, definitely that children
Yeah, so
is going
playing
to be rough to deal with. Uh,
yeah, playing the tempo game, bouncing it back to hand, saying, "No, how about next turn?" I think was the move.
yeah, you pay 4 mana, I pay one to delay. Seems pretty good. And we do have that seed core available to pump one of these creatures.
I almost wonder if it's actually better to just send the team, except the Skrelv. You're definitely going to want to use the Skrelv's protection effects. Put the Duelist out, and then just hope that Soph does not draw a piece of. Well, I guess Soph would really need two pieces of removal because you'd have to take the Skrelv out and the Duelist. Because that Duelist, if you put the Skrelv on it, it is 2 poison each time it connects. So that's 4 poison in one go.
Very
Alright.
interesting here. Using that Skrelv to give the creature one more toxic, one of the unblocked creatures.
Yep.
Usually we see the Skrelvs giving protection, but it's very interesting this side as well to give more toxic. And that was game. Whoa, I really like the way that Rebecca played it,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
guess
excited
that
to see.
when Skrelv does give protection, it's from a color, and I guess Soph did have 2 creatures of 2 colors, so that I do kinda like the idea that the seed core was, the way to get through.
Yeah, I agree. And what do you think we might see here sideboard on Rebecca's side? I mean, a lot of options.
I think I like the serum snares. I like the tempo that you get out of just bouncing, like, the shoulders back to hands, the proliferation. Um, I just like serum snare personally.
Yeah, I really like Destroy Evil. I saw that Rebecca did not bring it on. I mean, to be fair, it's a children only target kind of situation, so maybe not ideal. Um, and yeah, looks like Rebecca really staying on the plan. I really like this end. I mean, again, the issue with the mana, with the blue mana, but you have Rod Priest, two Skrells, Fading Oak, March.
Yep. It yeah. I will say the mana does tend to be a little risky just in this deck as a whole because you have so many one drops and there's there's just it's so hard to uh protect your one drops and make sure that you can have all your colors with your one drops.
And we saw a disfigure there, a card that I haven't seen in a while. But I really like the way that Rebecca baited this Krelv because she knows she has a second one. They are legendary, so it doesn't really matter if the first one dies. So baiting the removal out, so potentially these Rod Priest can stay alive over the second Skrelv. It looks like, yeah, that there's a cut down there on the Rod Priest, but there's still that Skrelv left, and one poison
Oh,
was dealt. As you said, the first poison is really important. Ooh, another cut down.
that was not what Rebecca wanted to see was,
No,
one mana removals back to back to back, unfortunately. We do, however, have the blue mana now. So that is a relief that, Rebecca's not out of it. It was it looked a little spicy for for a minute, but she is not out of it.
definitely not out of it. That Geeks is really good, but there's the Elspeth Smite, which exactly deals 3 damage. And if Soph is full of removal, maybe Rebecca can just, I mean, keep applying threads.
Yeah,
And
this is great for Rebecca because if Soph tries to remove the duelist, the March can keep it on board, the Serum Snare can pop it back to hand. There's options. I guess if I'm Rebecca, my biggest concern right now is does Soph have a second piece of removal? Do I play the Fading Hope? Do I keep well, there's only one blue, so I think I would, yeah, probably use the March.
I have to say, it's really interesting to me how we've only seen removal from soft side. So this sideboard was really, really removal intensive. We saw the disfigure, cut downs, go for throat,
I would have
and
to,
we
oh my gosh, I would have to imagine both of those Path of Perils came in as well.
oh yeah, and another go for throat.
Well, I mean, Skrelv getting a creature is good because the more creatures that Rebecca can get, the better standing she has. This is a little awkward though. Skrelv can't block. We have the Serum Snare that can bounce the Gix back to hand, but you don't really want it to even get through the first time, and Soph can just replay it again. So from Rebecca's side, it's a tempo play, but it's still not great.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Rebecca really does not want that geeks to start drawing additional cards. So it's a tough spot uh, because bouncing that geeks is to lose one card, but at the same time, not bouncing that geeks is your opponent gaining one card. So what do you value the most?
Yeah, and this is gonna give you a proliferate counter, so that part's good, but you're still not at the 3 for corrupted like the seed core once. Okay, that was a good pickup. Oh, I that mana better not tap like that.
Yeah, looks like Rebecca immediately cashing up to it. Starting with that Fading Hope, we might see. Fading Hope also does have the advantage of having the Scry effect, which is very relevant. Keeping that duelist now, Rebecca is able to not only Skrelvzive but also potentially pump the Skrelv, but looks like just going for the Skrelvzive now.
Yep.
Oh, because there was not enough poison yet.
Yeah, I had to push through that one more poison to get the corrupted before being able to use the seed course.
But we are there now, so we might see some attacks starting to be made. And again, this duelist is so good when paired with the seed core.
Absolutely. Paired with the seed core or just the Skrelv itself, being able to give it protection and the seed core gives it plus. Oh my gosh, that could be a one hit KO. I'd have to do the math, but I'm not good at math.
It's only until 10, Misha.
I know, I know. It should
I'm
be
also not
easy.
good at math, so
There
I
is a
get you.
there is a bat, but no value. And if Skrelv gives protection from black, that oh, is Rebecca gonna do the math for me? I hope she does, because I know that I'm not great at it.
So Soph is at 3 poison. Nick,
I'm gonna give that the pump, the first
yeah,
strike.
and then protected. Oh no, it's yeah, first strike, so it's not even needed. And here that bot can block, but
If you give the duelist protection, that gives the duelist the +1 poison, so we already know that's 4, and then the seed core, does that also give it plus? So would that be 5 and would that be 3, would that be 6, 9? Math is hard.
yeah, that's why I'm not a band toxic player. I feel like I'm always missing these kind of elements. I don't think the seed core gives more poison though, but I think it's just a +2 +1, which is
Okay,
already pretty good.
that is pretty good. We will at least see 4 more poison counters going through because Skrelv gives the +1 toxic.
So that's 8 poison, which we don't have to be great in math to say with confidence that if Soph doesn't get a pad of Peril, that will be enough next turn.
Yes, I won't lie. Bant toxic, it's a guilty pleasure. Even counting to 10, that math is still hard sometimes, but congratulations, Rebecca. I
Great job, Rebecca, here playing Bent really well and showing why the deck is still played and one of the choices here for this meta. I'm really excited that we had 3 matches, 6 different decks, and guess what? We are going to have our fourth and last match of the day. Time is flying by, and again, we have 2 different decks to show off. Misha, I have to say, you did such a great job of choosing the matches this week because they're all amazing. So big shout out to Misha here for always choosing such great matches for us to watch. And it has been a blast so far. So let's take a look here at our last players, what they decided to bring. I'm curious to see what our 2 final decks are. So we have Nigekki here, and she's playing Azorius Control. So a very cool deck. I have to say, this picture is from Barcelona, from MagicCon, and she actually was on the cosplay contest and she did great. She got one of the prizes. She was cosplaying as the fading loot. So
the faithless looting. That
yeah,
is
faithless looting,
I
exactly.
that is actually one of the very first play mats I ever bought, and every time I take it to a store to play with, I feel like my opponent always has an opinion, be it good, bad. People have thoughts on that faithless looting. I love it. I absolutely loved seeing her cosplay, and I was like, "Dang, I
It
she's
was a
got good
great
taste."
cosplay. She's very talented, and also she joined the VML, I think, for the first time the last season, and she made it into the top 32. I think I'm not sure if she made it in top 16, but she for sure did it into the top rounds, and she did very well, especially for a first season of the VML against amazing players. So, big congratulations! I am sure we are going to see much more of her in the magic scene and the competitive scene. And I'm excited to see these Azorius control deck. Let's see what she's playing against. If it's
So
a good match or not.
this deck, Feather, I have never seen this. I had to do some research because I was like, what is this deck even trying to do? And after my research, let me tell you, the deck relies heavily on Mind Splice apparatus, getting counters, making your spells cost, a lot less to cast, and then basically having the Lier out to make sure your spells are not countered, but Lier is actually how you push most of your damage through. Because I was looking with all this red, I was like, oh, you're gonna do a lot of burn to the face, like doubling up your burn spells. There's no burn spells in this deck, by the way. There's damage to creatures to keep your opponent behind and like coming back. But this deck lies heavily on just doubling up using your galvanic iterations and some of the other spells in this deck to just keep doubling and doubling the cast of the Alchemist Gambit cleaved. But since you have your Mind Slice apparatus giving it the discount, those cleave costs aren't as difficult to pay because if you don't cast it for cleave, you just lose the game. If you cleave, you just get an extra turn. So it's buying your spells back, flashing them back, taking an ungodly amount of turns, and pushing your damage through with your Lier.
I love these. It's going to be such a fun match to watch against Control. And I'm really excited that Feather decided to bring a brew. It's
It
refreshing to see a different deck here.
It was so refreshing, and I was so confused because I looked at it and was like, "I don't understand," and I really had to learn a lot.
That's great. I mean, when you have to go and search what's the win con, usually some spice has been brewed. So I'm excited to see how this plays out and how this deck performs. I mean, we already see Nigekki here being able to have that deduce, no more lies. So a lot of options. I really like deduce as a card that is fairly new to this Azorius control deck. I feel like it is really strong because sometimes your opponent is not going to play anything afraid of no more lies, and then you just deduce and get some card advantage.
Yeah, I think Deduce was a really good pickup for the Azorius decks, from MKM.
I completely agree. And now Nijeki here having those no more lies. Again, since Feder didn't play anything, she just decided to draw from the clue. And now a lot of answers. I mean, there's memory deluge. And again, that's one thing that Azorius Control does so well, which is if your opponent is not playing spells that and you cannot use your counters, memory deluge is instant speed. Things like the One Ring Emperor are instant speed. So a lot of options to finish the game, and we see that memory deluge revealing uh, another no more lies and deduce. So at this point, we have three no more lies. Now that did resolve, which can be quite challenging, and we see that Nijeki here recognizing, oh, I cannot let this happen. Let me use March.
Yeah, Nageki definitely, did her research as well and was like, "This is a key piece in Feather's deck. So if I can put them off from keeping it on the board, getting those counters, I think I have, a fair chance of staying in this one." And I like that they decided to, just throw away the temporary lockdown because that Feather's deck is that lockdown does nothing for Nageki here. But now they can cast the No More Lies, they can cast the Deduce if they need to. That was a really smart heads up play.
Yeah, I really like that play as well, as you said. Really smart from Nijeki here, and she does have the ability now to keep drawing. Again, showing how these Deduce is such a great card, and just drawing an additional card once again, and another Deduce. I mean, Deduce into Deduce, into Deduce. Okay, that's
I
great.
for some reason, it seems like, Nigekki's deck is just only No More Lies and Deduce.
It does seem that way, but I cannot be mad about it. I mean, it is blue-white control, uh, and those are key pieces in the deck.
Mhm. It's it's interesting seeing Azorius control go against this Izzet deck over there, and it's just a lot of, like, back and forth, like, "I'm waiting for you to react. No, I'm waiting for you to do something."
But in the meantime, it looks like both players, as you said, just waiting to see what the other player might do. But I do like the fact that Nijeki is the one with the counters.
Yep. This does not play around the No More Lies.
He does
Oh,
not, so I think we're just going to see great no more lies here. And
I think here, if I'm Nigeki, I think, yeah, I just activate the Mirrors because, even having a little 1/1 might on an empty board, they do have the No More Lies mana this time. So this Mind Slice apparatus will resolve.
yeah, that's pretty unfortunate, but maybe Nijeki will be able to draw something that takes care of it. Wandering Emperor
He
does not take care of it, but it's a great card to start applying some pressure.
I believe the Get Lost can destroy it. Is that right?
I think it's enchantments, and
Oh, it's an
the
enchantments. Okay.
apparatus is
An artifact. Okay.
yeah, exactly. And so it's creature, enchantment, or planeswalker, I believe.
Ah, those darn artifacts. They get a pass.
Yeah, and I'm sure Nijeki here was wishing that the card did indeed say artifacts as well.
We do see some of those key pieces in hand for Feather. The Alchemist Gambit that is getting closer and closer to being able to be cast for relatively cheap. The Galvanic iteration, I think if I'm in Feather's position here, I'm trying to big score and get a ton of treasures to just ensure that I can Alchemist Gambit, flash back the Galvanic iteration, and then maybe start taking a few turns. However, the difficult part is Feather really needs to have, the Lier. Because even if you take a bunch of turns, like yes, you're gonna get a bunch of cards, you're gonna draw into a bunch of cards, but you really want to have something on your board too. So it's an interesting position. I'm curious to see if I'm predicting the way Feather's going to play accurately or if I'm completely wrong.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see this. I mean, these two galvanic iterations, this is very scary. So even if Nijeki does no more lies the original spell, these two copies will still resolve.
Hmm.
So we are going to see two big scores potentially.
Yep, that is what, two,
Or
four.
maybe three if Nijeki decides not to use no more lies, but I think she might will do it because I mean those are getting quite irrelevant with the spells being almost free for Feather at this point. So we have two big scores. And Misha, what is this rebirth about? This three
This
mana card.
You need to have a way to get your Lier back in case Nageki has a way of removing it a few times. I think there's only two Liers in the main board, and so if it happens to get removed, you've got to figure out how you're getting it back because that Lier is basically your win con. Like you have to have a way to push damage, and Lier is the main way.
It looks like this Tidebinder is going to counter the trigger there, so at least the spells don't get as cheap.
Other has a ton of mana to play around with right now, and even with the trigger on the Mind Spice apparatus countered, they're still in a good position to cast just about anything they want out of their hand.
Yeah, there's still the no more lies, so that will help, but there's another tide binder, so that again can also delay things a little bit because this deck does rely on getting the spells for cheaper, and if that's not possible.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have 4 more damage coming through. I mean, slowly but surely, Nigekki here able to apply some pressure, so we have a galvanic iteration.
Deciding to pitch the Lier, but we do have the Diagraph Rebirth in hand, can get it back somewhat easily. Gonna get the big score, or at least try to. Feather does have the treasures to pay for at least a first No More Lies, but it already has been Galvanic iterated, so I think I might just. I think I would still use the No More Lies just to make them use treasures, or at least not get two big score activations.
Yeah, and let's see here what Nigekki decides to do. It's definitely a rough decision here. I mean, Ali's still at 13 life, which is pretty good.
Mhm. Yeah, playing against Azorius control is definitely a little tricky because, both of these decks are trying to get to the late game to, do what they're trying to do. Feather's trying to combo and get as many turns as possible, where Nigekki is just, playing the control route, which is always favored in the late game.
So it looks like Tidebinder countering that Galvanic iteration trigger and just the big score resolving.
A complete the circuit for the draw here. Little expensive to play, but still
But
able.
Feather's still able to play it and keep mana against No More Lies.
Mhm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that plays against both of the No More Lies. They would have to use some of their treasures, but at this point, if I'm Feather, I don't think I care about using my treasure. As long as I have one for the Diagraph Rebirth, I think I'm okay.
The thing is that Jackie does have Get Lost against Lier. Wandering Emperor can also come in clutch. And Feather is at 13 lives. So I think Jackie just wants to try to close this game as soon as possible. She also has access to the land there, the Restless. So I think we might see now that Lier enter the battlefield.
Yeah, because if you get the Lier onto the board, and then you're trying to cast your spells, those No More Lies become irrelevant, because spells can't be countered. However, as soon as Nageki removes Lier, they can be countered.
Exactly. So, and also that means that Alice also does not have counters that they can use.
Yeah,
I don't think this
it's
deck just runs any counters overall.
yeah, I don't think it does either. This is a little tricky because the Diagraph Rebirth does have flashback, so being able to, just pay for the 2 No More Lies taxes. Um, that Lier hits the board. I think I think I would have maybe just let the first trigger of the Diagraph Rebirth resolve, kill the Lier, and then when they go to flash it back, then maybe try to go to for the No More Lies counters. But,
Yeah,
it's hard to, know. This is a Feathers deck is difficult to play around, and it was a lot for me to just try to piece together when I was trying to understand it. So it's who's to say what the right choice is because it's not easy.
it's definitely not easy. We see now that, I mean, now Feather doesn't have any mana available.
Yep. Those are
And we,
maps and not treasures as I originally thought.
those two are maps from the Get Loss. So now Nijeki will be able to deal, I mean, potentially quite a bit of damage with that.
Yep, and the anchorage. So there is what, 6 damage? And if there's a Wandering Emperor coming out, that could be 7. So there's a lot of options. I just if I'm Nigekki, I have to be afraid that, Feather is gonna complete the combo and do the thing. But
Yeah.
looking for something this March of Otherworldly Light, hmm.
It's an interesting card. It would be good to be on the hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think if I'm in Nigekki's spot, is something I want on top because you know that Feather is gonna try to get that Leer out again because that is part of the combo that they need to put together in order to, win the game. So, if I can get that March of Otherworldly Light, if Feather doesn't kill me this turn and, take over and win, like, right now, I think that is a way to extend or like to just, finish it out and just push that last little bit of damage. But I think Feather's starting to do the thing.
And now does this card work again? You may cast sorcery spells this turn as though it's dead flash. And whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell,
It is basically just another galvanic iteration with Convoke.
whoa.
So you have the Alchemist Gambit, and I think it was gonna happen 5 times. I think it was gonna be 5 turns.
Yep, that's quite a bit. And Nijeki was like, no, you know what? This is enough for me. I had enough pain against his deck. Uh, let's just go to game number two.
So I think because Feather's deck draws so many cards, I think a major win con actually for Nageki is milling them out. I think the Jaces are some of the biggest bring-ins. Those lockdowns basically do nothing. I would get rid of all of my lockdowns. Bring in the Jace, bring in I think the Crumb hosts, the Seed Sharks getting more
Mm-hmm.
things that can, just fight it out. That's what if I'm Nageki, those are what I'm bringing in. Some negates too, yeah.
Kind of sad that Nigeki here is not running rest in pieces for that graveyard,
We do have
but
the Kutzels flankers. I believe those do some graveyard hate. So
they
that
do.
yeah, I think the lockdowns, those can leave. I, the March of Otherworldly Light, I believe exiles. So I don't know. I think I'd cut out the sunfalls for sure, the lockdowns, and then what are my last 2? Maybe the get loss, I'm not sure here.
Yeah, it's a difficult decision. The get loss is really good against Lier, so it's a tough removal. Like as you said, temporary lockdown. I feel like it's the easy one out immediately. It's really not great against the Feathers deck, but yeah, I might see that Wandering Emperor. I mean, it was in hand and not doing much last game.
Yeah, because when Lier goes to, attack, you can flash it out, exile, but I think cutting down 1 Emperor just because it does cost a little bit more mana, cutting out 1 Get Lost because it's just a destroy effect, it's not an exile when, they do have a Diregraph that can get the Lier back. I'm definitely, wanting more of an exile effect for it rather than just a destroy target effect.
We are taking a look now at Fetter's deck, and I really think that this deck is super interesting. I mean, I'm already seeing cards in sideboard that I'm really enjoying to see.
Yeah, I think you bring in the whole breaker horror here as well, just because a little bit of bounce, a little bit more tempo. You're getting to a ton of mana, so there's no reason not to bring that in. The hermits, those are counter spells with a creature body attached. What else did we see come in? Oh,
I mean,
the
there's a lot of options in this deck. That's the thing. Like, it has so many fun cards, and a lot of them that we just have to go Google and read because what is that 6/6? It's a Mardu card.
I think that was Kornos and it was like the one of the new team up cards with the doggy.
I swear, I let Feather cook because this is amazing. I love it. Uh, we see a good end for both players here. We have the Spell Dancer on Fetter's side, and we have the Deuces
You
on.
have Mercurial Spell Dancer. You see Nigekki reading it and seeing, oh, that also doubles up your spells. No, thank you. That's not great.
Yeah, but no answer really yet. I mean, that Jace can start doing some, I mean, maybe plus here. Yeah,
Yeah,
avoid the damage.
yeah. I think the Jaces are great for this matchup because you tick up, you prevent the damage that these spell dancers might do, and eventually, if you're able to, you just mill Feather out. Be like, go ahead, Feather, draw as many cards as you want. I'm gonna, help you put more of those in the graveyard too.
Yeah, exactly. And we see here that the Deuce drawing a card here, a land.
Yeah, I
And
don't think that I, worry about the spell dancer because I I'm not sure if it has to do damage, but it doesn't have any counters on it right now to remove to be able to double up any spells. So I'm not too worried. And with the Jace ability just making it not do damage, like it's fine. It's fine.
really interesting, we see that Feather obviously not able to cast um, that 4 mana spell, the Mind Slice, because I mean, Nijeki can have a counter, but in this case, she doesn't. So it's
Oh,
all bluff.
it was until just now.
Yeah, it was until now. So I love these mind games that are played. Um, the Mind Slice apparatus not being played. And I'm sure Federer rewatching this game is going to be like, oh no, I could have
I
done
missed
it.
my opportunity.
Yeah, which I mean, to be fair, the chances that the Azorius control player as counters are very high.
Yeah, it exactly. So, more often than not, that counterspell is in hand, and if I'm on Feather's side, I'm like, I'll try to bait it out with some other things first, but yeah,
Now, how many cards can that Jace mill already? Because there's a second Jace in hand, so that would be 7 times 3, 21 plus 15. So, I mean, Nijeki could already mill quite a bit of cards.
oh yeah, I if I'm Nageki, I think I maybe tick up once or twice more with this Jace, and then be like, okay, we had first Jace, but how do you feel about second Jace?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that might be what she's thinking. I wish we could see how many cards Feather has, but I mean, she's trying to draw quite a bit, so.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting, we're going for the memory deluge here, but if
Oh.
oh, that flanker, that's pretty great if, the Lier comes out and we try to do any flashback stuff. Everything's exiled, there's nothing to flash back.
Exactly, but here I think Nijeki just had to use that memory deluge main, which is usually not ideal, but she really needed that land. And one thing about control is that I feel like they always need to eat land drop, otherwise things can start getting a bit out of control. And look at the discount; all the cards are now a bit discounted.
Yeah, this is only the single discount. Next turn you get the double discount, and yeah, Feather's doing pretty good on mana here. But sees their opportunity to cast the big score with only 1 mana. Nageki can't counterspell anything Feather's got going on, so it's prime time to cast those spells and get that value.
But I have to say, these big scores, I mean, they're drawing cards. That's
Oh.
less cards in Federer's library. Oh, another Jace. I think this might be it, honestly.
Yeah, you'd mill for 24 here. You mill for
Because
another
you can do it, yeah, 24, then 15, 15.
that's 30, 50. Yeah, that and with how many cards Feather's already drawn, like what is that? 4, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think this, Feather's not playing any counter spells, so if you tick this Jace down, you play the other 2 Jaces, immediately tick them down, that should deck Feather.
And I think that's exactly what Nigekki here is just making sure. Just making sure before.
Yeah, you gotta do quick maths. Everybody's gotta do quick math sometimes.
Yep, it's not easy. And we are not sure how many cards exactly are left in the library. But yeah, I think she's like, okay, I think I can go for it. Oh, not going for it yet. Just
You know,
just
giving
waiting a bit
giving
longer.
giving herself one more turn just to be sure, like, I think that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Also, there's still four treasures and everything does have a discount, so
Yeah, I mean, we unfortunately know that Feather we do have the Lier, and those cards in the graveyard can get flashback. We know there's multiple big scores in the graveyard. Spell Pierce. Not sure that's going to do too much for Feather with this current board state and all the mana Nigekki has available. But yeah, I think Feather, it's time to play out the Lier. Um, we do have that Get Lost, which is, I think, going to probably be fired off immediately.
yeah, I agree. That Lear really does need to go.
Yeah, if that Lier stays and any of those cards start getting, you know, value, um, I think Feather just takes it immediately. But it's tricky because Feather, does have all those discounts and those big scores can, get more treasures, get more cards, but they don't. Yeah, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, definitely not the easiest matchup. Uh, and I just want to see Jace Meal. I'll be honest.
I do too. I am a sucker for Mill. I
Me too.
I'm not much of a blue player, but if you give me a Mill deck, I'm pretty happy.
I'm so happy that Jason won the draft in the Pro Tour by using Jace, by not Jace, by using
Double
Archive
archive
Trap.
traps. Oh,
Yes, yes.
that
I love
that
that.
that brought so much joy to my heart.
Yes, same.
I'm the self-proclaimed number 2 Jason Yee fan, just so everyone knows.
I love it.
I might have
And
to
here.
I might have to fight Nor later, but we'll we'll get to that when we get to it.
I really like started drafting differently after that, I must say. I did learn quite a bit.
I never pass an archive trap, but that may not also be the right call.
It's always the right call, Misha. Come on. How could you? Serum Snare there. I mean, that's
You could
one
just
less
negate
card.
yeah, you could just negate it as well. Not gonna let it happen.
Yeah, and actually, okay, big score. How much do you care about that big score? Because to be honest, again, that's going to be less cards in the deck. Less cards that need to be milled. Once again, same thing. As long as Feather does not go for the combo.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's
but there's
correct. That's
Ulrich.
Lier can't your spells can't be countered, so that negates a dead card.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Lier with that fun extra text.
That's why they appear with the red border, is because they cannot be countered. It's the same with the Cavern of Souls. And usually that's enough to remind players that the spell is uncounterable, but it would still not enough to remind me. I probably would still go with the counter and be like, what? What happened? And then be
I
like, oh, Lear, okay, sure.
Yeah, I've done a few drafts recently where things couldn't be countered, and while it's in my favor, I always throw up the sorry to my opponents when they do an oops.
And Misha, do you think this is going to be the turn that we are going to see some milling action?
has to be. I think if Nigekki doesn't mill this turn, that they're not going to make it another round. I don't think they can wait. So we'll
Yeah,
see
I think she's messing with our hearts, with our
okay,
little hearts that love meal.
give us the mill, please.
There are not that many cards left, I'm sure. I don't know how many there are, but
I mean, we have to have seen a big score cast at least
yes.
6 or 7 or 8 times, I'm pretty sure.
Yay, we are going for it. I love it.
Our hearts are happy, our
Yeah,
graveyards are full. It's great.
it is great. Okay, so now we have that Jace. Oh, entering with a.
One less counter.
Maybe that's all that's needed because we don't have access to see how many cards are left in the graveyard, but that was quite a bit of meal.
Yeah, that pile looks really low, so I can believe it.
That was 27 cards milled. We know about that spell pierce, but that's not enough.
Yeah, we have to assume that Feather has drawn at least 10 cards just off of big scores. And I want to say that with how many turns we've taken, we've probably drawn at least another 10 cards. So that's what, uh, about 30, 40, 50. So I think we do 10, 10 more cards. We're definitely there. Just, quick maths estimating.
3 times 3, 9 more cards get milled, and that's a concede. So yeah, Jace got there. I love it. And you called it so well, Misha. When we were seeing the sideboard, we were like, I feel like Jace is going to do some things, and it definitely did.
I believe in my boy. I'm a Jace fan.
MVP. You don't even care that Jace is corrupted.
You know, so am I a little bit in my soul. Uh, I feel you, bud. I feel you, Jace.
We got that from when you said that you always choose the archive traps in the draft.
It's that corruption just leaking
It's
out.
always okay to be a bit corrupted, I feel like.
Yeah, there's a lot of planeswalkers that went through the corruption. Did they come out of it, mostly unscathed? Yeah, but you know,
Unfortunately, I feel like only Jace and Nisa see some play from the corrupted planeswalkers, but
yeah, I think you're right. Like, they do a corrupted art for like the new emperor? I don't think she was actually corrupted though.
no, I don't think she was corrupted because usually when they are corrupted, they have these mana choice that you can pay with life.
Oh, there was the Nissa though. We do see some of the Nissa. That's more of a
Yeah,
sideboard card, but she pops up.
yeah, Nisa and Jace, those are the only two because Tamio doesn't really see play, Vraska doesn't really see play. Unfortunately, they were not corrupted enough, I guess.
Oh, don't forget about our boy Luca. He might have died, but he also was corrupted.
Oh, look, I forgot that card existed.
I feel like most people forget Luca ever existed, if we're being honest.
That's true. I'm sorry, Luca.
Sorry.
We're seeing now here Feather sideboarding. I'm not sure if much is going to change. Would you bring more cards after getting milled by Jace?
You know, um, I probably would. Is it the right move? Absolutely not. But I know when I play against Mill, I'm always afraid. And so would I be doing a 75 card special? Probably.
I love it. It's like, try to mill me now.
I've got 15 more to work with.
Yeah, it's like having 15 additional life almost.
Well, here's Jace. He's here.
Yeah,
I
Jace is here, but there's a spell pierce.
There is. I think if I'm to get I yep, I was gonna say I think I lead with Chrome Host Seed Shark here. When you have that many cards in hand that can trigger it, I think that's just what you have to get out.
Yeah, and I think we might see Mind Splice apparatus immediately.
Mhm. The March, it can exile this apparatus, so, is that right? Am I remembering my cards right?
Yeah, March can definitely.
I think I would be willing to exile one of my white cards to take care of that apparatus here.
Yeah, let me just take sure, say that I'm not saying something silly, but I think we saw that happen before. So
This is
exile
tough
target
because
artifact, creature, or enchantment. So for sure that
yeah,
can happen.
Get Lost can't get there, but March of Otherworldly Light can.
Yeah, it's just too many cards that are like either enchantment, planeswalker, creature, artifact.
Yeah, there was a I don't know if you've been keeping up with the trends, but there's this, Spellify, it's like a word puzzle game. The one from I believe it was yesterday was Fracture, and it took me so long to figure out what it was because it was destroy target, I believe it was artifact, enchantment, or planeswalker, and I was like, "What is this? What does those specific things?"
Oh, I see. I know I didn't know that was a trend. I'm learning it now, but I love it. Um and I think now Nigekki is in a very good position, by the way. Cause oh, but there's a Lier.
Yes, so the No More Lie is kind of useless here, but Nageki could just transform both of those tokens, slam in, and that would be if, Feather doesn't block, that's 9, 10, 11 damage just coming straight through, and that's a lot.
Yes, definitely a lot of damage, and I think Feather needs to take it.
Yeah, this is a rough position for Feather to be in. Nageki, the Chrome Host Seed Shark coming out on 3 and casting the March of Otherworldly Light, exiling, getting a 5 mana or basically a 5 power power toughness creature. That is a strong start that's hard to come back from.
Yeah, I completely agree. We have that spell dancer now, augury. That's going to start proliferating, which works pretty well.
That's true. It's a little unfortunate because Lier, it's great when your opponents are playing counter spells. It's not great when you have counter spells and you can't play your own. So
Yeah,
this
that
is
spell pierce has to feel bad.
yeah.
And here for sure we will see some sort of blocking by Feather because that's needed. And yeah, that's
Unfortunately,
enough.
this is just lethal. You flash out the Emperor, put one counter on, and you're at 7 Exacxies.
So that's exactly what we're going to see here. We see that Wandering Emperor, and probably we'll see a concession for Feather. And let me say, after that first game, I got really excited about this deck. And I was rooting a bit for Feather because, it's a different deck. But I'm
We
also really happy that Nijeki got the win. She also played really well. So
Yeah, we love seeing these new and exciting brews. Like I had to do some research to figure out what Feather was coming up with there, but I loved it, and I'm so happy that we got to go to game 3 for that. We got to see both decks do their things. Those Chrome Host Seed Sharks, the Jaces coming in out of the sideboard, definitely turned the tide in Nageki's favor. Congratulations to her. That was a fantastic matchup.
I have to say, we had 4 matches today, 8 different decks. So everyone brought a different deck. I feel like we had a lot of fun moments. Any highlight on your side, Misha?
Oh, I mean, can I say anything other than the Jace Mill? Like that chef's kiss.
Yeah, that one is fresh. I have to say about that top deck of World Soul Rage and another top deck of World Soul Rage really got my heart beating there for exact damage. That was a pretty sweet match, but overall, I feel like it was a very fun time to cast with you. I have to thank our sponsor, Wizards of the Coast, as well as Phoebe, our producer, for being here and helping us. And thank you, Misha, for being amazing and being a great co host. It was a great week 2 here at the VML season 12. Don't forget, next week we will be back for round 3 of the season 12. So 6 p.m. Pacific time here on the VML Twitch channel. If you're watching on YouTube, join live, join the comments. It's always fun over there. And that's it. I'm Filipa. This is Micha, and I think that's going to be it for today.
Also, thank you, Filipa. Can't forget you
Happy
either.
Friday, everyone.